الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيد الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. لن ينال الله لحومها ولا دماؤها ولكن يناله التقوى منكم. صدق الله العظيم وبلغنا رسوله النبي الأمين الكريم. فقد قال الله تبارك وتعالى في شان حبيبه الكريم: إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. اللهم صل على سيدنا ومولانا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا ومولانا محمد وبارك وسلم وصل عليه. الصلاة والسلام عليك يا سيدي يا رسول الله وعلى آلك وأصحابك يا حبيب الله. الصلاة والسلام عليك يا سيدي يا رسول الله وعلى آلك وأصحابك يا خاتم النبيين. After praising Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Lord of the universe, the Creator, the Provider, the most merciful, the most kind, and sending salutations upon the best of creation, mine and your Prophet, the most beloved to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Ahmad Mustafa Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And may peace and blessings be upon his noble household, his pure wives, the mothers of the believers, and his great companions. I pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grants you the blessings of this day. As you know, at this moment, the first 10 days of Dhul Hijjah are going by. Imam Hajar Asqalani alayhi rahmah, a great scholar, he writes in his book Fathul Bari that the Friday which comes during the first 10 days of Dhul Hijjah, that is considered as the greatest Friday amongst the year. And because this Friday is during the first 10 days of Dhul Hijjah, which is indeed classed as the greatest Friday, the most blessed Friday of the year. So I pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allows us to attain the blessings of this great and blessed and special day. Ameen thumma ameen. As you all know, the day of Eid is approaching. The day of Eid al-Adha, the 10th of Dhul Hijjah, which inshallah be on the Wednesday, 21st of July. This coming Wednesday, inshallah al-Aziz. And This is Eid al-Adha, the Eid of sacrifice, the celebration of sacrifice. Indeed, when we come near this Eid, we have an obligation for those individuals who meet the requirements of this obligation, the obligation of performing a sacrifice in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this indeed is commemorating and remembering the sunnah, the blessed sunnah of Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam and his blessed son Sayyidina Ismail alayhi salam. You all know the story in detail. I will not be going through the story, but I will certainly be talking about the virtues of this blessed sunnah and this obligation. Indeed, Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam and Sayyidina Ismail alayhi salam, both father and son, were greatly submissive to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And they had set a great example that the father is willing to sacrifice his one and only son, his son which was granted to Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam at an old age, after praying and asking for a child throughout his life. And when he enters into old age, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grants him this beautiful child, beautiful son, Sayyidina Ismail alayhi salam. And they are so submissive to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that they are willing, he is willing to sacrifice his beloved son for the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then when we look at the son, subhanallah, he is willing and he is ready to be sacrificed in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by the hands of his beloved father. And his son, subhanallah, not only is he willing to be sacrificed, he actually encourages his father. He makes sure that there is no barrier that comes in between his father and the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He encourages his father. He assists his father by requesting him to blindfold himself so he does not see me being slaughtered, and then he does not turn away from the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He asks his father to face his face towards the ground. So whilst his father is slaughtering him, he does not want his father to see his son's beautiful face and give up on this command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In this manner, he has set a great example of being submissive to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, of being obedient towards his father, Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam. So when we focus towards our obligation, whilst coming towards Eid al-Adha, which is the obligation of sacrifice, then we must remember the submission of these two individuals. We should remember that when they were about to perform their sacrifice, it was only for the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It was not for the people to see. It was not for them to gain fame in the eyes of the people. Their only purpose was the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is why when we also perform our obligation of sacrificing an animal in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, remembering the sunnah of Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam, it should only be for the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is something that is greatly lacking in these days and age, and we all will agree with this. This is the reality, that indeed very little and very less people will the only purpose of sacrificing an animal will be the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But majority of the people, a lot of the people, they do it just to please other people, just to look better in front of other people. And remember, if you will do it for the pleasure of other people, of the humans, you will never be able to If you were to buy an expensive animal, they still will not be pleased with you. If you buy a normal price animal, they will still not be pleased with you. Why? Because you all know the reality of Islam, that if someone is to buy an expensive animal, they can still try, they will try and find faults in that. And they will say that this person bought such an expensive animal, it is due to his unlawful earnings, unlawful wealth. Still you are not able to please them. If you buy a normal priced animal, they will still point fingers and find faults. And they will say that this person, when he bought a car, he spent so much money. When he got his son married off, he spent so much money. And when he is buying an animal to sacrifice in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he is not looking for an expensive animal. Now you try to please them, but in both ways, in all circumstances, they will not be pleased with you. Therefore, we must remember and keep in our mind that why not seek the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who knows the secrets of your heart, and who will be pleased with you whether you buy an expensive animal or whether you buy a cheap and a normal priced animal. So this is something that must be considered, and this must be paid attention towards. When we look at the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned in Surah Al-Hajj, He said, لَنْ يَنَالَ اللَّهَ لُحُومُهَا, that never does their flesh, their meat, وَلَا دِمَاؤُهَا, nor does their blood reach Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Meaning the animal that is sacrificed in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, their flesh and their blood does not matter in the court of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They have no value in the court of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The main thing and what has value is وَلَكِنْ يَنَالُهُ التَّقْوَى مِنْكُمْ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, but your piety, their piety, the piety of the person who is performing the sacrifice, his piety successfully reaches the court of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The blood and the flesh, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not in need of this. What matters in the court of Allah, what holds value in the court of Allah, is your piety and your sincerity, your intention of pleasing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Like I said, we are reviving the sunnah and the way of Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam, Abraham, Ismail alayhi salam. We are reviving their sunnah. We are commemorating their action. And their action was only for the sake of the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is why it is very important that we also understand this and we keep ourselves sincere when we perform this obligation and this act in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now coming to few requirements, it is very important to understand that many of us we face many misconceptions in the society and in our households which make us miss our obligations. One thing we all need to remember is each and every Muslim who is sane, who is not insane, who is sane, who is mature, being an adult, baligh, above the age of puberty, and who holds amount, currency, or whether it's money, wealth, anything that has the value equivalent to $52.5 of silver. So you ring your local jeweler, you find out what is the value of $52.5 silver. Just before Jummah, I also phoned around him and called the local jeweler and asked for the price. He gave around about £340. So this has given us the requirement and the threshold that if you own 300, so anything equivalent, that value is equivalent to £340, then Qurbani is wajib upon you. It is necessary upon you. In zakat it is different. When we work out our zakat, there are certain specific zakatable assets that you need to focus on. That is gold, that is silver, currency, any goods that you have bought with the intention of selling off. These are the only assets in zakat that you will work out your zakat on. I'll give an example of the difference between the requirements of zakat and the requirements for Qurbani. If someone has an extra house he is living in, and another extra house. Now that house was not bought with the intention of selling off. Therefore that will not be a zakatable asset. You will not pay zakat on that house, on that property, because you did not buy it with the intention of selling off. But when it comes to Qurbani, you will consider that extra house. Because in Qurbani you need to look at everything that you have extra, anything that you have extra, which equals to the equivalent of $52.5 silver, which I mentioned around about 340 pounds. Yes, this is how you will consider that extra house. Another example can be is extra mobile phones. Let's say someone has 2-3 extra mobile phones. In zakat, you will not consider them in your zakat. Because one, it's not gold, it's not silver, currency, and it's not something that you bought with the intention of selling off. In fact, you bought it to use yourself. But when it comes to Qurbani, those extra mobile phones, which are not part of your need, one mobile phone will be part of your need, but the extra 2-3 mobile phones, they are not part of your need. For Qurbani, you will consider the price of these mobile phones. So for example, someone has 2 extra mobile phones. He works out the value of these 2 extra mobile phones, and the value adds up to 400 pounds. The requirement is 340 pounds. This means that you must give Qurbani in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this is very important to understand. Every single adult say out all his extra goods, all the extra wealth that you have, whether that is currency, whether that is silver, whether that is mobile phone, whether that is an extra house, extra car, whatever it is, you need to work out, do they value above 340 pounds? Then if they do, then you need to know that it is obligatory, it is necessary for you to sacrifice an animal. Another great misconception which needs to be addressed and needs to be mentioned is in every household, it is part of the culture that the eldest in the house, the father or the grandfather, he will give a sacrifice in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and he will say to everyone in the house that the sacrifice has been performed on behalf of each and every. Many people are missing their obligations because of this misconception. Because in a household, there can be 4 or 5 different family members that's mentioned. There could be 2 sons and a daughter that meet the requirement. The wife could be meeting the requirement separately. What does this mean? In that one household, there are 5 obligations. There are 5 animals that need to be slaughtered and sacrificed in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Said to his beloved